So it seems that Apple finally realized that iPadOS is what really holds back its own iPads from being great. Because yes, it looks like Apple finally wants to bring some changes to the iPad and more for the iPhone at WWDC. Speaking of changes, Google apparently does not want to change a thing with the Pixel 5a, and this is more ridiculous than it sounds. And new images show us what the iPhone 13 mini could look like with a new camera design that, I know, it's weird. I'm Jaime Rivera, and hey, listen, let's be honest. We all wish the iPad was more than just an oversized iPod Touch. Be honest. This is Pocketnow Daily. The official news today begin with deals, and don't forget we've got timestamps below in case you want to skip this and stick to the news. Let's start with OnePlus, which is really making a case for you to buy the 8 series probably more than their own 9 series. Starting with the fact that they have the 8 Pro for $300 off its original price tag, leaving it at $699 for the entry-level variant, and you get free Buds Z in white, and those buds are actually pretty good for their price. They also are running a flash sale on the Nord series where you can get the N10 for $279 and the N100 for $170, and it finishes on the 27th. Now moving on to Amazon, the Google Pixel 4 is available for $300 off its original price, leaving the entry-level model for $496. And if you want a foldable, Amazon has the Galaxy Z Fold 2 renewed for $1486, and I mean, if you do the math, that's actually a solid deal with how Amazon guarantees that program. We have then more deals on other Samsung smartphones, Macs, iPads, and more in the description. Now let's move on to Samsung, as the company is making an interesting move with the Galaxy S20 FE. We know that Sammy found success with this phone thanks to the decent specifications and the price tag, and they want to add on that, it seems. According to a new report from WinFeature, it seems that Samsung might do some changes with the S20 FE in its 4G version and add the Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 SoC, swapping out the Exynos 990 that originally powered it, because I guess they heard there's much love for that chip, period. I mean, the report even mentions the new model number, and actually Samsung has already updated some of their European websites with this model number, hinting that the launch will happen, sometime soon, and the rest of the specifications will remain the same as the Exynos S20 FE, but they might add a SKU with more storage for around 600 euros. We'll keep you posted on when they make the changes, and while Samsung is doing this for an older phone, wait for the segment at the end, as Google is doing the entire opposite, and guys, trust me, it does not look good. And at the same time, it makes me wonder what's going to happen with the S21 FE. Now, let's move the spotlight onto Cupertino real quick before we talk about them again in the hottest news, and this time about the iPhone 13 mini. I mean, you'd think that the report on low sales would kill the future generation, but we know Apple is famous for liking to play the long game. So yeah, those other reports of Apple stopping production of the 12th mini aren't going anywhere, and with this new purple color that just launched, I mean, I don't even know what to say to you anymore. This picture comes from a tipster on Weibo showing off the design that was leaked in CAD renders last week in the blue color variant, where the two cameras now sit across from each other inside that stove. Of course, at the moment, these are still prototypes, and Apple could simply just, decide to not go on with the design. I mean, a ton of tipsters have pretty much been talking about this design as being probably final, so this prototype kind of gives us a bit of a hint of credibility. We'll see what we get. It definitely doesn't look bad, but again, I mean, it depends on who you ask. I know a lot of people don't like it. But alright, let's talk about Google and the Pixel 5a on an interesting turn of events. Let me just start by saying I'm struggling to even call this a 5a anymore. So a couple of weeks ago, we found out that the Pixel 5a will be coming sometime during the fall, and it won't be available everywhere, just the US and Japan. Well, now we have a new report from 9to5 Google that claims that Barbette, aka the Pixel 5a, will be using a processor identified by the number SM7250, which is a reference to the same Qualcomm Snapdragon 765G. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that chip, but It's also the processor that powers the 4A 5G and the 5. And if the phone will look exactly like last year's phone, I mean, wouldn't this technically just be the same 4A 5G? Like, I'm curious to see how Google plans to differentiate these phones. I mean, why even bother to announce anything if that precise phone can currently be purchased in the market today? I mean, gotta hand it to Google for the weird decisions in the smartphone business. But finally, for the hottest news today, let's talk about Apple, WWDC, and iOS and iPadOS. I mean, if you didn't watch our video on the Spring Loaded event, I highly recommend you do, as I went into detail on how these new iPads don't really make sense right now, unless, of course, WWDC changes things dramatically, and that's what the news is about. According to a new report from Bloomberg, Cupertino is planning to overhaul notifications on iOS 15, and they are also preparing a major overhaul for iPads in the home screen with iPadOS 15, but wait for it. Let's start with iOS 15. Apparently, they want to let you customize notifications depending on your situation, with modes like sleep, driving, or work, and you'll be able to choose if you want an audible alert or not. Apparently, this would work through a menu in the control center, letting you create scenarios depending on whatever cases you feel are accustomed to your needs. So yeah, that's long overdue. It's pretty much the way the while driving feature works, but fine. For the major news, let's move on to iPadOS. Bloomberg claims that this will be the biggest overhaul to the home screen in over a decade. Apparently, Apple will finally add widgets to the home screen, which just is kind of ridiculous considering the fact that, well, you've been able to do it in the iPhone for a year, and that actually is a much smaller canvas. So yeah, it lets you replace the entire grid with the widgets of your choice, as it should be. But the report also mentions some big changes to iMessage for it to compete with WhatsApp by adding some sort of social media aspect to it. Like, all right, but you know what the problem is? Like, there's no word on supporting Pro applications, aka what the Mac has, which technically should happen. So far, a home screen overhaul seems boring and overdue, but in today's question, let us know. What would help you consider an iPad Pro a Pro machine? Because in my case, I mean, the applications have to leverage that power. If not, it just makes no sense for you to buy this over a MacBook Air right now with that M1, which runs Pro applications just fine. But that's just me. Leave us a comment down below. We'd love to know your opinion. Friends, again, if you want to get the news earlier, follow us on Pocketnow.com and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one. You can also follow us on social media, as our extended coverage happens on Instagram. And follow me on my personal handles to see me want the iPad to be more than that. At least the Pro. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like what you saw. I'm Jaime Rivera. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.